Welcome to the Leadership Roundtable podcast with Dr. Conway Edwards, where we get the privilege to get together every month and talk about how we can help you leaders go further, faster, and how you can expand your leadership capacity. So we want to encourage you to go to our webpage, visit 1cc.com/leadership roundtable. You'll be able to download an outline of what we talk about today so that you can discuss it with the leaders around you. Now today we're really excited because we have analyst, sports analyst, NBA analyst, also man of God here today, who's going to share with us. His name is Chris Broussard. Thank you for joining us today,
Great
Chris.
to be here. I'm excited.
Great to have you, and great to have you talk to the leaders in the house today. And I know one of your passions outside of sports is the King Movement.
Yeah, so I'm founder and president of the King Movement. It's a national men's ministry that, in a nutshell, wants to strengthen men in their daily walks with Christ. So it's a kind of a discipleship program and a brotherhood. But through the brotherhood, the teaching, the support, accountability, encouragement, we just want to help men live for Christ and exude that Christ-like character and live out their Christian principles and values Monday through Saturday, or maybe Sunday afternoon through Saturday,
That's right.
in our marriages, in the workplace, wherever we may be. Because obviously, number one, we want to glorify God, but also just from a social standpoint, if we can really help men be what Christ created them to be, then we believe that'll strengthen the families and the children and the communities and ultimately, our nation. So, yeah, King Movement, that's really my passion. And we have about 20 chapters around the nation.
Wow.
We work with several churches, dozens of churches as well, trying to help their men's ministries. We do events at the Super Bowl, NBA All-Star Game, and we do a national men's conference every year that's really growing and really been a blessing to a lot of brothers. So, we're just trying to glorify the Lord with it, and so far, so good.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest voids you see? Why is leadership so important for men in today's culture, men in the church? Why is leadership so important right now?
Yeah, I think, and one aspect, of course, of leadership is an example, setting an example by your lifestyle. And I think that is so important because I really think, and obviously I'm a sports broadcaster, as you said, I think it is vitally important in this day and age for people in general to see people that they admire for various reasons. Because he's a great athlete,
right,
because he's wealthy, because he's a successful entrepreneur, because he's a great lawyer, a great teacher, entertainer, whatever it may be, and then say, oh, wow, and he or she is a Christian, and they say Jesus is the reason for all their success and who empowers them to be who they are. Like, I feel like that is critical. I know in my journey to come to Christ, when I was very much into sports, obviously, and seeing athletes who were outspoken about their faith really impacted me.
Yeah.
And so I think that is very important. So that's obviously not the only thing about leadership, but I just think it's important for those men who are in leadership and in positions of where they have a big platform. It's important for us to live out the faith, be bold in our faith, not be ashamed or afraid to share our faith when it's appropriate. And I think that in and of itself will really make a huge difference to boys and men in our society.
And it's, like you said, the Sunday after, because Sunday, we have the home field advantage.
Right.
We got the home field advantage.
Right.
Is living it out. Now, what does that look like for you, living out your faith in the different places you find yourself?
Yeah, I don't travel quite as much now as I used to. For the bulk of my career, I traveled all the time. And, it's just making sure, because I covered the NBA, so I've seen a lot,
Right.
And making sure that you guard yourself, and I've been to some parties and things like that, All-Star Weekend, stuff like that. But you have to know, like, the great thing about Christ is a personal relationship. And so you have to know your limits, what you can do without, falling into sin. And I don't mean stepping up to the line and doing as much as you can without. So I just mean, where can you be? What environments can you be in? Obviously, there's some environments we just should never be in.
Right.
But what environments can you be in that are neutral but could really take someone over the edge? And for you, they might be fine. What type of people even you can, talk with, who you can hang out with and things like that without falling away from your faith.
Yeah.
And so I've really been careful about that. And it's interesting because, like I said, I've been to events or people's houses or parties or whatever. I've never seen anything crazy. And I think it's because people know my walk with Christ and my beliefs and stuff. And I don't get, it's not like I don't feel shunned in any way, but I don't get invited to that stuff. They know, like if I go to the bar, it might be the day party. Or you know what I mean? I'm not, they know not to even because I've been with people who got some lifestyles that, aren't Christian, if you will. And we're cool, we can have a friendship and cool, but they know I'm not getting involved with this. Like the Bible says, the Lord your God is a sun and a shield. And shield, like when people know your stance and you're confident in it, God protects you from getting involved in some madness, So I haven't had to see a lot of stuff like that. As far as just my career, it is, when you're at work, you're there to work. I'm not there primarily to preach the gospel. When I'm on television, it's not to preach the gospel, it's to work, and talk about sports. Now, out, in the studio, in your interactions with your coworkers and things, when you just live out your faith, you end up developing relationships with people that open up doors for you to share with them, to pray with them, to, if something is going wrong in their life, they might want prayer and come to you. And so those are the way through the relationships is how I kind of can minister to people. And then there may be occasions every so often where faith does come in appropriately is a part of the discussion.
Right.
Because with sports, sometimes you talk about race, sometimes you talk about politics, sometimes culture, just sometimes those are a part of the sports story. So sometimes faith may be a part of that. Yeah. But, it's like the Bible says, when the door is opened, you're willing to walk through it. But you don't want to go in, I don't think in any situation necessarily, like a bull in a china shop, unless the Lord is absolutely telling you to do it. You know what I mean? So, right. It's just about living it, exuding that Christ-like character. And then what I found is a lot of times people come to you and they want to talk about the Lord or, ease some of their problems, some of their challenges. And that's how you can really be a witness and ultimately at times share the gospel with them.
That's big for the leaders listening, because too many people think I have to say instead of just live.
Yeah. I mean, because like if I went on TV and was just like, Jesus is Lord,
Yeah.
that might be my last time on TV.
Yeah, you lose the platform.
Right, you lose the platform. So, you have to, and God puts us in situations, and you can just see by the word and the way Jesus even maneuvered that, there's certain times to share the word and certain times to just walk the word out.
Yeah.
And people will see that, and then that may lead ultimately to an opportunity to lead somebody to Christ.
Yeah. We're not going to go down the trail, but I know you've been in situations where you've been invited to share, and then it's opened up some attention.
Yeah.
But that's because you were invited to share because people knew who you were.
Yes, and I've been on radio shows, just a straight sports radio show, a podcast that was nothing about religion, but they would ask me, well, do you still believe this, or do you still believe that, or where are you on this? And I've just shared it like, yes. I mean, unless Jesus changed his mind, I'm not changing my mind, you know. And I will say this. The fact that I shared my faith publicly years ago, and even my feeling on certain lifestyles that are prevalent in today's society, I'll be honest, it protected me too. Because now, and this has been now for the last 15 years or so, people know where I stand. And so they may disagree, but they know. And so even if I'm on a show or a podcast and I express those beliefs again, it's like people know. Like, it's not, oh my gosh, we didn't know he felt this way.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah. And so there's a blessing in that. And I do think as believers, like I said, we're not bulls in a china shop, but we just should be open about how we live and what our beliefs are. And people, like, I feel like, look, America's a pluralistic society.
Right.
And I have to live with, work with, and respect even some people whose lifestyles and beliefs I don't agree with at all. Then they have to do the same thing with Christians and other faiths and lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we should get the same. We tolerate you, you gotta tolerate us.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so it's not one-sided where we have to tolerate you, but you can force us to change and be quiet and, you know, all that stuff. So I think if we understand that and we can all practice civility, you know, for the sake of living together in this society, then I think we can do that.
That's good. Now, talk about the platform, because sometimes if you could lose the platform if you share too much or you aren't invited, but there's something I've heard you say that if you make yourself irreplaceable, if you make yourself good enough, then that opens up the platform.
Yeah, I mean, and you can just look at sports as an example. Patrick Mahomes has talked about his faith in Christ.
Yes.
Nobody's got a problem with that.
Right.
C.J. Stroud has talked about his faith in Christ. Nobody has a problem with that. Steph Curry, you know, and I get it. Everybody's not going to be a superstar, but my point is, like, people will, if you're a Christian in the workplace, people, like, you making yourself an asset to that company will allow, like, if they may not agree with your beliefs, but they will accept you because you are an asset to the company. Like I said, Patrick Mahomes could come out and say something politically incorrect. There was talk about, I don't know, not him, but his wife, you know, voting for Trump, which is very obviously polarizing in today's society. Right. But he caught no heat. You know what I mean? He really caught no heat. And a lot of times, an African American may catch heat for even being somewhat associated with Trump. But because he's so great and irreplaceable, like, there was not even an issue about that. And so my point is, even if you are not a superstar in your field, you can if you make yourself irreplaceable at your company through hard work, through being courteous and polite with people, being a team player, really sincerely wanting to help your coworkers and even bringing joy and peace. And I don't mean, like, you know, sometimes, let's just keep it real. Sometimes people who are always laughing and they can get on your nerves a little bit, and it can seem like, this is fake, this is a defense mechanism, whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just if you really are in a good place with the Lord, there should be a joy in you. He said, I came that your joy might be full, you know, and I told you these things so that your joy might be full. So just letting that naturally come out of you, your joy, your peace, and the other things I mentioned, compassion, that all those things can make you an asset to your company. And so even if they don't agree with what your beliefs are, they'll be like, no, we have to keep him. Yeah. We have to keep her because she's really helping us.
That's good. That's good. I got one last question for you. You're around sports a lot. As you see sports, as you see teamwork, chemistry, leadership, what are just a few things that you see in sports that you're like, man, if the kingdom men and leaders would get what they get, if we got that in the kingdom, if we got that in the church, if we got that, like, what are the highlights of you see in sports that you're like, man, we've got to get this these aspects?
That's
of
a great question. One thing I'll say, and hopefully this is applicable, the best coaches, I believe.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe I shouldn't word it like that because there have been coaches that are set in their ways. Phil Jackson was running the triangle, right, in basketball, no matter what. Mike D'Antoni is running his offense, 7 seconds or left and all that, no matter what. And obviously those are great, particularly Phil Jackson, phenomenal coach. But I think the coaches I really like and the way they do it is they are not beholden to one way of doing things. And so when their roster and their personnel doesn't match their style that they were doing last year or the year before or whatever, they'll change it to fit the personnel. And the two best examples I can think of with that are Greg Popovich. You know, and when Tim Duncan got there and he had Duncan and David Robinson, it was the Twin Towers, put some shooters around them. Then they became a real defensive team. They were defense then, but also really focused strongly on defense. Then ultimately went more to offense for that last championship against Miami. They went more to an offensive approach. At times, like Duncan had been the hub, then they switched to Tony Parker as Duncan got older, the key part of the offense. And like he just adjusted to his personnel and the ages and the abilities of his personnel at times. And now you see it in the NBA Finals 2025, Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle has been a defensive coach, an offensive coach, like, you know, going deep into the bench, not so deep. Like, he is a fantastic coach and at using the talents that his players in that given season have. And so the way I would apply that to the kingdom is, Paul said it. He said, I make myself, I'm paraphrasing, but I make myself I become all things to all men.
Right.
And so a lot of time, and I think obviously things have changed. I even heard the hip hop music today at the conference. So, and I've always been into Christian hip hop because I was into hip hop before I came to the Lord. But you know there were a lot of Christians that wouldn't accept that one point, and maybe some even that still don't today. But if you want to reach the youth, you have to go at them in ways that they will relate to. If you want to reach different groups of people, then you should adapt to what way it's going to reach them.
Yeah. And
so I think that's a big part of leadership. And even as you get people, Christians who may be stuck in their ways and don't see why we have to use rap music. I don't like, you know, as a leader, you have to be able to either explain to them, you know, and change their mind, or just be willing to move forward even as they're disgruntled about your decision. So I think that's something that leaders need to look at. Yeah.
I mean, the Spurs example you gave of the aging players, the new player, I just think of in church, we have teams. Sometimes we let people stay on the team in a prominent role.
Star. Right.
Or because they've been faithful the longest, but they're not performing. And you got to shift around. And everybody's got a season.
That's a great point. I mean, look, in LA with the Lakers, I know this is a sore spot for you guys, but when Luka Doncic goes there, he becomes the number one guy. LeBron willingly said, okay, I'm going to play a secondary role, you know?
Right.
I'm sorry to bring that up, but
we're still hurting over that.
And rightfully so. Rightfully so. But hey, you know what? Y'all got Cooper Rush, man. That was the Lord smiling on y'all because that. And I think he'll be at least a star.
Oh yeah.
He's got potential to be a superstar. I don't know if he'll reach that or not, but I think he'll be at least a star, which is good for y'all.
Man, and just even seeing, I think Kyrie's leadership over his career has shifted.
Kyrie, I can't say enough about the growth he's shown. He's always had a great heart. And I'll say this, in a lot of the things he went through, you know, these guys are so young. And Kyrie is a thoughtful, intelligent, curious person. And some of the players aren't like that. And so they're not going to grow in different stages. But he grew through reading more, through exploring other things and seeing different cultural things and religions and stuff. And I've known guys who've gone through those things in their 20s, but they did it anonymously. You know, when they're just a regular person, nobody sees the growth other than people close to them. But Kyrie did that in the fishbowl of the NBA. So, you know, and I would imagine he would admit that he made some mistakes here and there. But since he's been in Dallas, he's been a model leader. And it's just unfortunate. He is so great. I think he'll be a Hall of Famer. I can't imagine he won't be a Hall of Famer. But he'll be somewhat iconic in that for his ball handling. But it's just unfortunate that he's been so injury prone, and that's really nothing he can control. Yeah. But that's just the one kind of downside to his career.
Man. Well, leadership's everywhere. It shows up on the court, shows up in church, shows up in business. Yeah. I want to thank you for joining us today, man.
My pleasure. It has been great being here at One Community Church. You guys have a fantastic ministry, and seeing thousands of men excited about the Lord really warmed my heart, and that was awesome. So it was my pleasure to do this.
We're grateful for you. We're coming off the heels of this men's conference. Almost 3,000 men were here.
Yeah, fantastic.
And, it was amazing, life-changing. I want to encourage you. You've probably heard him on TV or on the radio. I want you to go check out the King Movement and see what Chris Broussard, all the things he's doing for the kingdom. Because I know that's where your heart really is, and the platform you have is just open that up. So thank you. Thank you for listening today. Go online, go to our webpage. We shared it earlier. Visit 1cc.com/leadership roundtable. You can see some of the notes, some links to where you can find Chris if you don't already know where he's at. And we'd love for you, if this has been a blessing to you, to go share it with somebody, leave us a review. Go through this with your team and see how you can expand your leadership capacity, talking through what we shared about today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you back next month. God bless you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today. It has been an honor to have you here with us. Now, just want to remind you that all of the resources we talked about today are available online at visit1cc.com/leadership roundtable. Now, if this has been helpful, leave us a review, go out there and hit subscribe, and more importantly, share this with your team so that everybody can grow. We can't wait to see you next time.